Okay, thanks for coming on in to hang out with me while I rebuilt this Presario compact laptop. I just felt like it'd be something cool to put on the internet, just to be nice to an old laptop. It was definitely treated bad in its day, so to be able to take it apart, put a new processor in it, and do something nice for old computers like that. So what you're seeing here is my next project. This is going to be a total basket case nightmare. Stay tuned to the end for the benchmarks. That's where I'll show beginning to end the differences between not just the straight laptop, how it came to me, but also with just the CPU and then with the CPU, RAM, and SSD upgrade. And there is quite a bit of difference between all of them. I was actually kind of surprised. So yeah, thanks for hanging out with me, and thanks for watching me be nice to this old laptop. So what I'm doing here, this is a Presario compact CQ57 laptop. I bought it on eBay, $45 plus $30 shipping to my door. That was after some haggling. It was claimed to be refurbished. It was claimed to be, cleaned up, full working order, and we're gonna see. Obviously, that's not the case. So we're gonna upgrade it. We're gonna put a new CPU in it. It's also got a fan issue. And I did run benchmarks, and running the first benchmarks with the fan issue, I had this thing propped up and I had a big fan blowing air straight through the heatsink, so I think the cooling was actually better than a working fan. So that shouldn't be a problem. I will show all of those benchmarks. Also, it's got a broken USB port. These are pretty easy to replace, but yeah, one of mine was totally thrashed, and they made no effort to even clean it out, full of Dorito dust and stuff. So you're gonna need some kind of plastic, something soft. Sometimes you can use wood, shish kebab sticks, stuff like that, to get in between the plastic and pry. Obviously, this is very, very soft compared to anything that you might scratch on the laptop. That's the whole idea. You don't want to scratch the laptop, but you want to be able to pry, because there's a lot of clips and pins. Aside from that, we're going to put on some new thermal paste, obviously, because we have a new processor to put on. We're going straight by the next step over the B800, which is what's in here, and going to the i3-2310M, and we're going to be throwing this Arctic on it. This came cleaned up. This is the biggest upgrade we're doing to this laptop besides the RAM. We are also going to be doing RAM. That's going to be an upgrade from 4 to 8 gigabytes. Aside from that, we're going to need alcohol, stuff like that, to clean up around the old CPU. We're going to need an electronic screwdriver kit. I've used this exponentially, this nice anodized handle here. I really like this set. It's one of the best ones I've ever had. So obviously you need something like that. And also, I do have open on my desktop the end of life recycle disassembly diagram for this laptop. So any laptop that's over 5 to 10 years old, you're gonna probably be able to find a disassembly layout for it from its manufacturer. This is from HP. So if you can get something like that, that'd be great. If you can't get that, look for a screen replacement diagram showing you how to replace the screen, because 9 times out of 10, if you can get the screen off of this, you can get the processor out of it and everything else. And aside from that, you cannot upgrade non-socketed laptops, obviously. As far as I understand, that's just not something people do. So you got to make sure your laptop's socketed before this is going to go on. To do the USB port, I don't have any solder suckers. I don't have any anything like that, but I do have stranded copper wire, and I have flux. So you can dip this copper wire in the flux and use a clean soldering iron to suck up the solder around the pins as much as you can, and then you should just have to heat them all up at the same time, just a little bit, to be able to get it out of there. So you want to suck as much solder off of the board as you can. If you cannot get this out without sucking more solder, then don't try it. Step 1 on the disassembly diagram, pop out the battery. Easy enough. And I thought it's pretty cool too. They do have batteries that are super expensive, but basically they're 2 of these batteries sort of put back to back here, so it has twice as many cells like a high cap battery. They're super expensive, but I really want to look into that. If not, I want to look into prying this open and getting the cells out. They are 18,650 cells, so they can be replaced easily. Now, battery out, I'm going to go ahead and get out a little Phillips tip. And the first step is to take these screws out here, but I'm going to go ahead and get these doors off and get the RAM and stuff out. That's just how I want to do it. And also this, when you have this open, laid out, you got some dividers here. Okay, you already know where I'm going. You got to keep everything aligned, everything documented, everything separated. This is how you do these kinds of things. If you cannot keep things separated and clean, you're going to have problems. Use that as my little screw separator. So this first door to the computer plug, or the keyboard plug, and the LAN, wireless LAN. This is filthy. I can already tell this is going to be a cleaning job. Same thing with this one. This door for the hard drive, 2.5 inch hard drive, 7200 RPM, I think. That's also got a C-clip, so that's not going anywhere. Okay, next thing I'm going to take off is this half-height mini PCIe wireless LAN. We're going to go ahead and try and get that off of there without bending it. These can bend up pretty easily, and you'll never get it back in there properly afterwards. So just go ahead and set that off to the side. This is going to need to be separated with the LAN card, the screw. Separator, and it's kind of sticking there, so oh, there you go, perfect. And out to the side. Now I'm gonna worry about my RAM. One side of the clip at a time, try and get it out. Okay, it should pop up now. Okay, next one out. Okay. Same thing. Okay. And we're gonna go ahead, before I forget, I'm gonna go ahead and get this keyboard plug up. Okay, next thing, these couple screws missing here. There were 2 screws missing out of the body. Bare screws. These are M 2.5 by 5 screws. There were 2 missing out of the body, so I took 2 out of the hard drive. We're just gonna go ahead and pop this Caddy off. You can see what we're working with. Try and get this wire out of this groove, and this has a tab, little pull tab here, straight up. Keep this in the Caddy and put that off to the side. That will be used to soft mod my PS2 later. Okay, now we've got all the peripherals off. We're going to the next step. There is 8 screws in the battery bay. Easiest thing to get out of the way is the peripherals. If you can keep the peripherals together off to the side, you won't have to worry about counting these screws that are used by the peripherals. Right after the RAM, they're counting this one here as 1. They're counting this one here as 1. And this says ODD lock. So this tells me that this is the disk drive lock. Every laptop's different, even though it's the same exact model. Okay. Now we're starting our next separator bin here. Got 1, 2, 3. Okay, now in the hard drive Caddy, we've got 1, 2, 3, a silver screw, and 4. And all 3 of the black ones, all the black ones so far seem to be M 2.5 by 5. Alright, took 1, 2, 3, 4. Next step is to start getting into the body itself. So with the laptop here, we're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 screws. Like I said, this was supposed to come to me refurbished, and missing screws, broken USB plug. There's problems with the keyboard. The 5 key wasn't working, even though it's just because stuff spilt on it and they didn't clean it. Now we're going to go ahead and jump to the next step. And it says to take the keyboard from top side, set at angle of 45 degrees. So it looks like we flip the laptop back over. Make sure you tuck your plugs away so you don't break anything. Flipping this back over on its side, on its right side. Okay. These little openings, 2, 3, 4. Oof. That key is trashed. We'll look at that in a minute. All these little grooves here, they are all kind of keyed. So we're going to start trying to see how we can get it to move. I see here that I can push those little keys back, so I'm going to carefully use a screwdriver to push the key back. Got one. Okay, I have the keyboard off now. Underneath all these clips, there are little spring keys. You push the key back, go behind the keyboard, pry it off. Go one by one. Do not pry with the screwdriver, pry with your plastic tool. Okay, I've got all the ones on the top, and the instructions say from top down to a 45-degree angle. That is not clear. That is not clear. So what I'm thinking is I have to take the top off around, tilt the keyboard up, go underneath, and there's something to unplug. That is my thinking. So I've got all these at the top. I'm gonna go ahead and start working top to bottom, down the sides. I definitely got something here keeping me. Okay. I'm gonna look down this other side, see what I can see. Oh, there we go. Just sticky from all the garbage spilt in it. Alright, so I'm gonna carefully set that back, hold the laptop. Trash. Okay, we're getting there. We're getting there, and I can feel there's clips and stuff. It's just starting to come loose. All right, so we have a ribbon cable. Flip this over here. It should be okay. And we're gonna pull this door up, flip the door up, slide the ribbon cable out, up, out. That needs to be cleaned up. So we're going to take this keyboard. This is going to have to be cleaned as one whole unit. Now it is telling me to get rid of these ribbon cables right away. If you wanted to close these doors, you can, just to keep them out of the way. That's the one lonely screw we have in this whole step. And this is a small, oops. That is why you want a magnetic screwdriver. Alright, I've gotten somewhere. So along this diagram has two arrows pointing like this, and the words are loosen the screws, there's only one, and break away the upper logic board along the arrowhead. It's not clear. So what I've done is I've taken my tool and along the side here, there's a lip right under the top, and you can get under that lip with this tool. So I'm going to go ahead and get under there the best I can, and I did hear a pop with one clip. You can see there is a crack in the casing of the laptop. There's a crack. I will be reinforcing the back of that crack and trying to blend this as good as I can after I have the board out and replace that socket. So you're going to want to beware when you come in with your tool and you're prying, do not break this more. You're going to want to just kind of move right along, maybe go to the other side, try and work it this way. You're going to want to pop that without breaking this case anymore. Oof, that was lucky. That was lucky. I got that back just by running my disgustingly long fingernail up it. Okay, we are at an impasse as of now. Aha! We missed a screw! That is where you do not want to continue prying until you break something. One missing screw. So, let's see, what step was that? That screw was not labeled. The screw right here was coming through the back side and it was not labeled. This should have been in the same picture as the 4 screws holding in the hard drive caddy. So I've labeled that and put that with my disassembly diagram. Yuck. There is the upper logic board. This is responsible for mouse input, button input, power button input, a lot of structural stability of the laptop. With this little shell off, the laptop is much more flimsy. So, something to think about. That can be set off to the side. The RTC or Cmos battery would be right here in the picture. That's obviously either external or on the other side of the board. Right there, somewhere around here. We have a tape wire. We have no RTC battery. We have the SATA plug. We have one screw. We have one more plug for the upper speaker. We have one plug here, which goes to the screen. Looks like power for the screen, maybe. And one here, which is the fan. This is the fan header. So let's go ahead and start doing that. We've got one door to lift up. Speaker header, screw, SATA header, no RTC battery, and ribbon cable. So next would be this speaker up here, and that tells me I have 2 screws to take out of that speaker, and sure enough, I've got 2 screws to take out of that speaker. And the other speaker also has 2 screws. Now they jump straight to the motherboard being out. So we're going to start looking and see what that takes to do. So I'm going to go ahead and get that speaker out of the way. It just seems like the right thing to do. And all the same speaker screws. Yep. Okay. Okay. That speaker can be folded up out of the way. Okay. Oh yeah, this fan is frozen. Oh, actually it's not, it was just stuck. So yeah, definitely not refurbished. Definitely not a working fan. Definitely broken USB ports. Definitely did not get a charger even though I already had one, and that's being shipped. So I have one screw for this screen mount. Yep. Yep. Okay. I'm going to put that in a new separator. I'll show you what I mean here. This moves. Move that out of the way. Close screen and open it up out of the way. Oh, we're home free. Okay, take the rest of the laptop. Actually, I'm going to throw that screw back in there because that screen is way too flimsy. We are in like Flynn. Let's see what we got. The cooler's definitely too loose. Definitely too loose. The fan is so filthy it was frozen. That's why I was getting the fan error on BIOS. So I think this completely cleaned up. Alcohol, acetone, whatever. Not acetone, it's plastic. You know what I mean. Alcohol. Get that puppy taken apart and cleaned up, and we should be good to go. New laptop. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and put the Cmos battery. That just keeps power off the board while I'm playing with it. And it does look like this chipset has been getting pretty hot. See, the thermal paste is baked, and there should be a thermal pad on the computer to put this towards a little cooling patch on the chassis of the actual computer. this here. This is the thermal pad. I'm going to clean it up as best I can and stick it back together and stick that on the chipset before I put the chipset and motherboard back on here. So this metal piece is full of water and copper and other things. So this is just meant to sink heat away right here towards this opening, and that is supposed to have intake from the fan for the CPU, and that coming by is supposed to cool the chipset. Okay. 'Tis time for some cleaning. i3 2310M, $8 shipped to my door. Alright, got the mighty 70% garbage isopropanol. And, oops. Okay. First things first, I'm going to start worrying about this chipset. You just want to get everything clean before you start trying to replace parts and stuff, so you know when you put it back together it was cleaned first. Okay, there's nothing else on here to get off other than cleaning, so I'm gonna go ahead and get that nasty freaking cooler off. Now, how I like to remove coolers, whether it's on desktop or laptop, one good spin across each corner, one good spin across the other corners, and repeat. Yeah, that thermal paste has totally the bed. Yeah, this thermal paste is really bad. Thermal paste, all cracky. All cracky. And I'm not even gonna worry about the cooler right now. That fan is disgusting. I couldn't even spin it over when I stuck a screwdriver in to begin with. I'm going to set that off to the side, somewhere filthy. I'm going to leave the CPU in there because that protects its pins and the board and everything else. Now for the CPU to go in, take your socket, 1/2 turn left, CPU comes right out, nice and soft on those pins. Grab your new CPU. Now remember how this goes. You see there is a marker here, this little box, and you see the missing pins. You're going to line up your missing pins. You're going to line up the missing pins and the arrow to that marker. Give it a little move, make sure it's sitting in there nice and good. No pressure, no pressure. One smooth half turn back. Done. Done. Old CPU back in the box. Okay, motherboard is done. The motherboard can be set off to the side. For the USB replacement, here's our blown out USB port and our cracked chassis. I will be trying to reinforce this crack once this is out and being fixed. So let's swap the tip, my screwdriver. And this should have one screw. This absolutely was in the disassembly diagram, so I'm not worried about remembering. Okay. Take the rest of the chassis. Set that off to the side. Okay, let's see. As you can see, the pin lineup should be perfect. You saw me working with a USB port to try and rebuild one that was broken on this module. You can see this one here is blown out. This is a top mount USB socket, whereas these are low profile. And I was looking, I have a couple of these blown out boards around, and I saw that they were low profile, and I thought, okay, all I gotta do is desolder it, which didn't work out so well. I ended up breaking this one off just so I could have one and look at it. But I brought it over here and I started to look at it after all kinds of messing around, and it's not low profile enough. But I started looking on eBay and I found this whole module for $8, so I'm gonna go ahead and buy one. But I still want to repair this one later, so I may return to modifying this to fit this. HP does this. HP Compact. All kinds of proprietary stuff. I am going to worry about the cooler right now, so go ahead and get the thermal paste off. First things first. I was looking at this fan. If I pull this back, there's a couple tiny screws, 4 of them on the bottom of this cage. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my driver. That stops vibration, so that absolutely needs to be replaced. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. This was stopped shut. Other than that, the fan's done. I'm not going to oil this because I can't get to it. I'm going to go blow this out to the air compressor. Alright. Go ahead and grab my upper shell. This is going to be taken out to the air compressor and blown off. You want to be really careful not to pop these buttons off, because once you do, they're not coming back on. As far as I know, with any laptop, that's pretty much the case. Now the keyboard. Alright. This is my trick. Big surprise. Pour alcohol down it. See, I knew I had the 5 key and cycle it. Pour alcohol in it and cycle it. You would be shocked to know how often that works. Okay, well this might be a good time to show you how these keys come off, because this one's already coming off. Okay. And I think I've got all the garbage out. It looks like it's missing this side of this foot. This side of this foot. So if I can get this foot to snap in and these 2 feet to snap in, I should be able to get the key back in working order. With the speed of the laptop and the condition it was in, $45 plus shipping, that's like I would have been better off just buying a Fire tablet. I have one actually, and it works great, has worked great for everything from Office to RuneScape to, you know, you can get the Fire toolbox and download the Google Play Store. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 91, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 200 cycles. I call that fixed. It's a little cattywampus, but it works. Alright, I think it actually might have worked that time because I aligned them a lot closer. So let's go ahead and talk about what we did. It's finally fixed. We have a scissoring action here. Okay. And on the tips of these bars across the scissoring action correspond to the key. The key has a foot here, a foot here, a foot here, and a foot here. Okay, on my key, one of these was broken. The key popped off. I noticed a part of that key was missing on this foot. This side of this foot was gone. So that means I've lost one contact point on my scissor action. Okay. I went to put the key back in and snap this back into place, because with 3 of the 4 points, the key will work just fine. So I snapped it into place and it kept popping back off. I inspected the key again and realized that this foot was broken right here and was able to traverse back and forth. So when I snapped my bar in here and here, it was stressing this outward and popping the bar back out. So what I did is I pushed this back in place, stuck a glob of hot glue right here, not a glob, but just enough to get down inside there and keep it flush so that there isn't a extrusion keeping the key from going all the way down. And it didn't work. I took it back off. I took the hot glue off, realized the hot glue wasn't even doing anything. So I put them a little bit closer just in case and put a little bit more hot glue. Made sure it was real cool. Put it on there and it worked. I got 1, 2, 3 points of contact on the scissor action. That is enough for the key. That is enough for the key. This double speaker assembly. Set that off to the side. I'll clean that up separately. And now we take the whole thing, screw it all, we'll blow it out. Okay, now what I'm going to do with this little piece of thermal pad, I'm absolutely going to reuse it. I don't have any thermal pad. This is better than nothing. So try and get as much of this garbage off of it as I possibly can. Alright. Now we're going to worry about getting the cooler back on. And it looks like the cooler's still nice and clean. Chipsticks. Perfect. Perfectly clean. Let's get some TP. Much less play in that cooler now. Much less play. Has a lot less chance of cracking, and plus it's brand new, which also helps it stop cracking. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and take the finished motherboard, set it over with the top shell, and grab the bottom shell and screen. And I'm going to grab this double set in here. And we're going to take our first speaker, drop it into its hole, and we're going to take our wire and we're going to route that so with that about to go in, we're going to need to take this one side of the screen now off, and the screen is going to flex when I do that, so you don't want to mar up the screw hole while you're taking it out. Help it kind of flex itself out of your way. There you go. Up here out of the way. Everything good. Nope, we're hung up somewhere. Where are we hung up? There we go. There we go. All right. That side wasn't tight, and I never even touched that screw. We're gonna go ahead and put our one screw back in our bottom left of our motherboard. We have 4 screws, one for each side of this speaker assembly. Okay, now we have all these plugged back in. Make sure they're all clean. And these go flat right in. Don't make too loud of a click on this side. So I have a crack in the chassis there. I'm going to be pulling that in place best as I can, putting some JB Weld on it and doing whatever I have to do to keep that in place. If I have to use a piece of hot glue to keep it in place and then pull the hot glue off later, that's what I'll do. Now, how you want to mix up JB Weld? Get yourself a mixing tray, something to mix it with. Both of these are going to be thrown in the trash when I'm done. Take 1 drop equal of each. So I'm going to take that and mix that up a little bit. I do not need much. That is even way too much, but I have plenty. It will last me a while in these gigantic tubes. Okay. What you don't want to do is get that hardener on the actual adhesive. It will harden the cap on. Okay. Relatively equal dots of each. The gray that it's going to turn once you mix these together is what tells you how well you mixed it. Okay, it looks like the right way to do this was to set some JB Weld in between the cracked plastic as best I could, and it looks like I'm going to put some weight downward. Okay, obviously the way this broke is it had a USB port or charging cable or something in it and fell on the USB port, so pulled the USB device up and snapped the chassis. Boom. Perfect. Perfect. I was able to actually rebuild this good enough for me. I have bonus footage of that. Cool. It came out very good, so go ahead and pop this off. that fixed, we're going to go ahead and grab our repaired USB hub. And our screws. Okay, now I want to take my top shell, set it about where it might go. Make sure everything you need to get to is visible. So we're going to need to get to 3 different tape wires and 1 screw hole. There's our screw hole, there's our 3 tape wires, so we should be good to go. I'm going to go ahead and start popping this into place. Okay, before I put those tape wires on, I want to close the laptop. Sure that it's closed up everywhere. There it is. We have 1 screw to go in our top shell. And we're going to go ahead and get our tape wires hooked up. Go ahead and get my keyboard. Open her door up. Make sure she's clean. There we go. Okay. Now our feet go back into our slots and we snap in bottom top now in reverse. Okay. We'll close our laptop. Flip it over. I'm going to go ahead and put the power cord back in here. Leave my LAN closed up for now. And we're going to go in reverse order now. Okay, it looks like we are going to the body screws. Remember, we have 2 that were extra long. It looks like my marker fell out of my other foot, but there's still 1 here, so I remember now that these 2 in the back by the screen were extra long. The hard drive caddy screws. We had 1 silver screw right there. And we had 3 black screws here, here, and here. We have one by the LAN for that next step. We have the ODD lock. These are all in 2.555 except for a few. Okay. Going back here now, we have, remember this is counted as 4, so we have 3 black and 4 silver. Now we can go ahead and put our peripherals back in. I'll go ahead and start with the LAN card. Keyed. There we go. Go ahead and snap our cable back in here. Be careful not to bend it. Okay. Okay, so you're going to want to take your old Caddy and your SATA adapter and your new hard drive. You're going to want to put your SATA adapter in your drive, figure out which way this goes. Obviously the drive is upside down in this specific laptop. So you're going to take your Caddy screws and throw them back in. Okay, new drive in the old Caddy. I'm going to go ahead and throw that back in the laptop. Run your cable back through. Take your tab. Straight down. Not too much of a click. You want to take your hard drive screws. When you get your new RAM, you're going to want to make sure that you look at the sticker of the old RAM and make sure it's the size you want. So the old ones were 2 GB. We wanted 4 GB to upgrade the RAM size, so we got 4 GB. They said DDR3, that's the type of pinout. PC3-10600 is the class of RAM. SODIMM-1333 MHz, that's the speed. Just make sure you look at the old RAM and look at the stickers and make sure you know what you're buying so you get the right RAM. If I bought DDR4, it wouldn't fit. If I bought DDR2, it wouldn't fit. If I bought 1600 MHz, it wouldn't work because the laptop's max speed is 1333 MHz. So you can, there's some leeway with some laptops, but the best bet is to put back in whatever RAM worked, just a bigger size. So we're gonna go ahead and take our RAM. That's in there. Take your hard drive door, stick in the feet. Okay, screw the door back down. Take your RAM and LAN door. Screw it back down. Take your battery back in. And you're done. Okay. Time to check the fruits of our labor. First fire up. Everything's plugged in. Battery's in. Okay, no fan error on BIOS. That's a good sign. Alright, and it does take a while when you do a big hardware upgrade like this. It'll take a while for all the settings and everything to change in Windows, so just go ahead and wait for that to happen. We are in, so I'm going to go ahead and use this generic USB drive here and check my rebuilt USB port. That's a good sign. I'm getting lights, getting beeps. Alright, there's some drivers that I had on there. Go ahead and take the Cinebench zip over here, file transfer. Alright, as you can see, the USB port is working just fine. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and open keyboard test here from PassMark. Free trial. We had a problem with the F8 key, the one we rebuilt. We had a problem with the 5 key that was extra sticky, and I found later there was a problem with the underscore key. So after the fixing, underscore works, F8 works. You can see up top in the BIOS key code, it changes when I press F8, so I know that key works. 5 key works. All right. Okay, now the benchmark software that you're going to see is a little unconventional. I used CPU-Z to bench the CPU, and I used 3D Mark 2001 in order to bench the graphics. The reason I used these is because it allowed me to compare the tech in here to something more comparable to its performance level. So if I would have benchmarked this in Cinebench or Unigen, I would be comparing it to brand new desktop and laptop hardware. So if I compare it to old hardware, I will get a lot better look at the jumps between upgrades in the benchmark. We have our first set from the stock computer as it came to me with the original B800 CPU, 4 gigabytes of RAM, and the 7200 RPM hard drive. And with the fan issue, as I stated in the beginning of the video, I had the laptop propped up off the desk, and I had an 80mm desktop fan under here blowing air straight through the cooler. So I think the numbers in the benchmark will be generous at worst for the original state of the laptop. And moving on from that, we have the CPU, just the CPU. I put the same RAM and the same hard drive back in the laptop and did more benchmarks. So jumping from the B800 to the i3-2310M, these are the scores you're going to see. Obviously, just putting new thermal paste in it is going to make it perform better because of how bad it was cracked and how loose the cooler was. So moving on from there, we have the CPU, RAM, and SSD scores. So this is $80 in memory on top of the $8 CPU and $40 laptop. So this is the most expensive part of the upgrade, but that doesn't mean it gave you your biggest boost. As you can see, it gave us our biggest graphical boost, but as far as CPU processing power between single and multi-thread, it's not gonna break your usability without the RAM and SSD upgrade. So with just the $8 CPU and a couple hours of your time, you can make an unusable laptop usable again. Okay, this is the part where I tell you to like the video. I would like to thank the music creator Kupla for putting a few songs of theirs onto the Lofi Girl YouTube channel, where their own record label, Lofi Records, has allowed the music on that playlist to be used free by content creators. So the song that you heard during this whole shenanigan was Distant Lands by Kupla. So please go check out Kupla, go check out Lofi Girl, and they've got good music for your everyday life. So thanks again for watching, thanks for hanging out with me, thanks for watching me be good to this laptop, and be good to your tech.